Trump is in danger. Committee is getting ready to rule on Donald Trump on January 6th. Welcome to Eagle News Channel. The final public meeting of the Select Panel is set to take place on Monday afternoon, at which time it also intends to deliver the first components of its final report. After exerting pressure on allies at every level of government, the Select Committee on January 6th is preparing to unveil its most comprehensive case to date that Donald Trump attempted to subvert the transfer of presidential power to Joe Biden, first with the assistance of a violent mob, and then first by pressuring allies at every level of government. Following an investigation that lasted for 18 months and included explosive depositions from members of Trump's West Wing, battles that reached the Supreme Court, and access to some of the most sensitive papers held by Trump's White House, the panel plans to release the first components of its final report on Monday. The panel has long held the belief that President Trump violated the law in his pursuit of a second term despite the fact that he will not win the election in 2020. However, it is anticipated that the new report will include vivid new details of that effort, particularly concerning the group of enablers that facilitated Trump's gambit. These enablers could include Republican members of Congress, a team of lawyers pushing fringe theories, or shadowy operatives who are awash in conspiracy theories. In addition, the panel intends to publicly adopt a decision that Trump violated the criminal insurrection legislation by providing aid and comfort to the crowd that stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021. This conclusion will state that Trump's actions constitute a violation of the statute. I believe that there is sufficient evidence to support the conclusion that criminal acts were done by Donald Trump in conjunction with his efforts to reverse the election. And looking at it as a former prosecutor, I think there's ample evidence to prosecute the president, panel member Rep. Adam Schiff, Democrat California, said on Sunday on CNN's State of the Union, but he declined to comment on particular accusations being considered by the special counsel's office. It is anticipated that the panel will recommend to the Department of Justice that at least 3 criminal charges be brought against the former president. These accusations would include rebellion, obstruction of an official procedure, and conspiracy to defraud the United States government. The referrals to the department are contained in a report that was prepared by a subcommittee and are scheduled to be approved by the full committee on Monday. The referral recommendation for insurrection makes reference to the ruling made by U.S. District Court Judge Amit Mehta in February, which stated that Trump's language could have plausibly incited violence on January 6, as well as the 57 votes that the Senate cast during the impeachment trial last year to convict Trump on incitement of insurrection. It is entirely up to the prosecutors working for the Justice Department to decide whether or not to file charges. Congress does not have any say in the matter. However, members of the panel have been placing increased emphasis on the impact that their transmission to the department could have on public opinion, and they see it as an important part of building a historical record around the attack. The Select Panel has also moved in parallel with the effort made by the Justice Department to prosecute hundreds of Trump supporters who attacked the Capitol. Currently, the special counsel Jack Smith is conducting a wide-ranging investigation of Trump's scheme to cling to power. The investigation is being led by Smith. The large body of data that the panel is getting ready to release later this week might be even more significant than the referrals that have been made to the department and to other outside agencies. It contains transcripts of over 1,000 witness interviews and documentation that could assist prosecutors in determining whether witnesses may have committed criminal acts. The last meeting of the Select Committee takes place on the 2-year anniversary of a tweet posted by Donald Trump on December 19, 2020, in which he asked allies to converge on Washington for a wild protest against the election results. The message called for a protest against the election results. Investigators from both Congress and the Department of Justice consider that tweet to be a pivotal point in the investigation because it gave extremists newfound confidence in their ability to assist Trump's campaign and refocused attention on a day that is traditionally reserved for ceremonial aspects of the transition of power. According to the documents filed in court, in dozens of instances, the tweet was seen as a call to action and a validation of the individual's desire to stop the steal. This was especially true among members of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. Trump, who regularly repeats discredited claims that the 2020 election was stolen and should be invalidated, which is a constitutional impossibility, spent the weekend railing against the Select Committee, which he described as a group of misfits and thugs. This is in contrast to Trump's habit of routinely reiterating discredited claims that the 2020 election was stolen and should be invalidated. The Select panel conducted more than 1,000 interviews throughout the entire month of November, resulting in significant testimony from a former Trump aide named Tony Ornato and from the Speaker of the Wisconsin House of Representatives, Robin Vos, during the committee's final days of investigation. In total, nearly every member of Trump's inner circle was questioned under oath by the committee. A few of the most important witnesses cited their right under the Fifth Amendment not to incriminate themselves or asserted privileges that the committee was unable to breach. However, other individuals, such as Pat Cipollone, a former attorney in the White House, have offered exceptional evidence of Trump's plan to remain in power. The information presented by the committee suggests that Donald Trump began making preparations to challenge the results of the election several months before voters went to the polls. Despite indications that Biden was leading or likely to take the lead in several key swing states, Trump would follow the advice of allies such as Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon, and Roger Stone to declare victory on election night. This would occur despite the fact that Trump's opponent, Hillary Clinton, was trailing in those states. And when it seemed as though Biden was going to win, Trump hatched a complex plot to undermine the outcome of the election. He started putting pressure on Republicans who were in charge of state and local governments to not certify Biden's win and instead appoint presidential electors who were supportive of Trump. To buttress his debunked allegations of fraud, he relied heavily on the Justice Department and came dangerously close to installing new, compliant officials there before being forced to back down by the possibility of a mass resignation. In addition to this, he rallied his supporters in Congress to launch a last-ditch effort to overturn the election results on January 6, 2021. As the moment of infamy drew closer, Trump ramped up his pressure on Mike Pence, who was serving as vice president at the time, to carry out a coup d'etat against the election on January 6, when Pence was scheduled to preside over the constitutionally mandated count of Electoral College votes. The fact that Pence resisted that pressure was the trump card that brought down Trump's plan. But Trump kept the pressure on Pence in the public eye, and after calling his supporters to Washington, specifically to protest the Jan. 6th session of Congress, he whipped many in the crowd into a frenzy, and he urged them to fight like hell and to march on the Capitol to pressure Pence and Republican lawmakers to vote against certifying Biden's victory. After doing this, he called his supporters to Washington specifically to protest the January 6th session of Congress. The evidence presented by the committee indicated that President Trump had been informed, prior to issuing his instruction, that a significant portion of the audience was armed. The report that was put together by the Select Committee is the result of a procedure that was never intended to take place. After Republicans in the House and Senate abandoned a bipartisan plan for an independent commission to investigate the causes of the violent assault on the Capitol by a mob of Trump supporters, Speaker Nancy Pelosi formed the panel as a last resort. Pelosi's decision came after Republicans in the House and Senate abandoned the plan. Representatives Jim Banks of Indiana, Jim Jordan of Ohio, Rodney Davis of Illinois, Troy Nehls of Texas, and Kelly Armstrong of North Dakota were chosen by GOP leader Kevin McCarthy to serve on the Select Committee. Pelosi had extended an invitation to Republicans asking them to suggest up to 5 candidates for the panel. Pelosi, however, took exception to the choice of Banks and Jordan, who are among the most important supporters of Trump's efforts to overturn the election results. McCarthy was forced to withdraw his other picks in protest as a result of the move, which Pelosi recognized was unprecedented. In the end, that decision resulted in the formation of a panel that was capable of functioning in near total unity and secrecy. Representative Liz Cheney, Republican Wyoming, one of the committee's 2 Republicans, performed the most essential role and became the dynamic force behind the panel's most major judgments. She is credited with being the driving force behind these decisions. The committee went from being a question mark to becoming a force that the world of Trump needed to take into account thanks to a few key turning events. After ignoring a subpoena from a select committee and claiming he was immune due to his personal relationships with Trump, the Justice Department made the decision to indict Bannon for contempt of Congress. This development is considered to be the most significant of all of them. Bannon was found guilty in July and is in the process of appealing his sentence. Members of the committee have stated that the accusation itself encouraged other reluctant witnesses to appear so that they would not risk a similar fate. The committee was successful in other key legal battles, and as a result, it was granted access to previously restricted Trump White House materials that were maintained by the National Archives. These records became the primary focus of the public hearings that the committee held in June and July. A federal judge came to the conclusion that Trump and attorney John Eastman likely conspired to overturn the election after the committee fought in court against Eastman, who was a legal architect of Trump's last-ditch bid to remain in power. The judge described this as a coup in search of a legal theory. Support the channel by like and share the video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell to receive the latest news. Thank you for watching.